What's up, everyone? So today I wanted to talk a little bit about riffs and dive deeper into the concept of what exactly a riff is. Because if you think about a riff is a really broad term, it can mean a lot of different things. I mean, there's some riffs that have lots of notes in it, like there's some riffs that just have two notes in it. There's even some that only have one note in it. Now, the way I like to think of riffs, they're either single note, they could be either single notes or chords, but for the most part, I think of it as just serving a rhythmic purpose. So sometimes they're melodies and you can actually sing riffs if you wanted to, but for the most part, I think what defines riff is that it's being played as a rhythm section. If you studied jazz before, you know the rhythm section is always the part of the band that plays chords. Now, riffs are kind of the same idea. They take up that same space as being the rhythm section, except this is more in the context of a lot of different styles of music, especially in rock and metal, which is what I'm going to touch up on today. Now, the thing about writing riffs is that riffs can be literally anything. You could take any notes from any scale or any kind of pattern, or really they don't even have to fit a scale. There's plenty of metal riffs out there that don't follow any specific type of scale. They just kind of go wherever they want, but they still sound really cool and fit that purpose of being a rhythm section. So today I want to talk about a cool trick that I use a lot when I'm writing riffs, is actually applying chord progressions to riffs. Now, usually when you think of chord progressions, maybe you think of chord progressions as being like just open chords. Now, really, if you think about it, chord progressions are just there to tell you what the chords are at a given moment of the song. Now, you don't have to stick to just strummy chord progressions or like arpeggiated chord progressions. You can actually write riffs over the chords and actually give it a whole new meaning. This is by no means a new concept. I mean, plenty of old bands have done it. For example, the Beatles. So what exactly is going on right there? So if you listen to a lot of the Beatles, or even the Kinks did this a lot as well, you'll notice that a lot of their songs just fit blues progressions, which is just the 1-7, 1 dominant 7 to 4-7, 1-7, then 5-7 for the most part. Day Tripper follows that same pattern. It's doing this basic melodic line, and it's doing that a few times, and it follows that same melodic pattern into the 4 dominant 7 chord, which in this case is going to be A, because we're in the key of E, or E blues is what I would think of it as. And then later on, as a bridge section, they actually go into the 5 chord, which is the same exact melodic line. So that's what I mean by it fits the purpose of a rhythm section, yet it's still kind of sounds like a melody. It's not exactly they're just playing straight chords. They're actually getting some extra notes in there. Now, a bit of a more modern example, especially in the metal world, would be Marigold by Periphery. So what's going on there is we're in the key of C minor, and it's following this basic melodic pattern. And then from there, that's the 1 chord in C minor. Then from there, it actually just goes to the 2 chord, which is the D diminished chord. And then from there, it goes to the G7 chord. Even just listening to it, if you can hear diatonic harmony really well, and you can actually hear the chords just listening to it. But just for an example, I'm going to show you what the chords sound like over the actual song. Now, those are just 2 examples, but there's plenty of examples, especially now in modern metal. I think this is a lot more common. nowadays to play them against chord progression, because it really draws out one idea a little bit more. It gets a lot more mileage out of one rhythmic idea. It also gives it a little harmonic structure to it as well, as in it wants to go somewhere. It sounds like it's going somewhere and resolving to specific places. Now, to come up with riffs like this on your own, it actually requires you to know a little bit of the neck, because it's really helpful to know all your scales everywhere, as well as your diatonic harmony, which is all the chords within the scales. So, for example, if you could play a chord scale like this. That's all the chords within B minor. I actually have a few videos on talking about diatonic harmony if you want to look past in my other videos. Now, if you look at one of my older songs that I posted here on this YouTube channel, actually, I have a song called Lima. Actually came up with a riff using this concept. So the riff goes something like this. So that's the first rendition of it. I basically played it off of a B power chord with an additional 9. So that's what I started with. I just played open B and then played a power chord. Just arpeggiated it up, and then from there I go up to 9, and then from there, just looking at the scale. This part I didn't really think too much of, other than just saying, oh, I'm going to look at what the scale shape is and just kind of highlight what the notes are. So I kind of think in my head. I highlight those notes in my head specifically. And then from there, I just go. Because I know all those notes exist within B minor. So from there, the whole thing sounds like this. And I figured, okay, that's kind of cool. What if I added that to, what if I go up to the 2 chord and try playing that over that? Okay, now it sounds like it wants to go somewhere. And then maybe I'll do that to the flat 7. Maybe try that over the G Lydian. And then from there, my ear wanted to hear an F sharp 7 chord, so from there I actually go into a harmonic minor with that A sharp note in it. So pretty much I just drew out that whole section into just these little movements, and I think that brought a lot of different ideas over the same exact idea that I started with. Because sometimes writing music isn't so much coming up with lots and lots of ideas and cramming them together. Sometimes it's about coming up with one idea and just trying to get like little mini ideas out of that, if that makes sense. So that's if you know your diatonic harmony really well. But if you're really into non-functional harmony, you can also do that. So maybe if you want to take this shape and play it over like a that kind of pattern, you could be like, and that gives you kind of a cool sounding thing right there. As well as if you know your jazz harmony really well, if you know like altered scale and how to go into like Lydian dominant kind of sounds, you can kind of take those ideas as well. Anything you could think of just to get, just kind of narrow down your options, because the thing about having the options of having so many options with riffs and being able to do whatever you want, ironically it's kind of limiting to the writer, because then the writer doesn't know what to do. It's like there's so many options, what do I do to write over this riff now? So that's why I think it's important to dive deep into these concepts of music rather than just being like, oh, just make up whatever you want, because if you just say that, then it doesn't help you. You don't know what you want it to sound like, so you don't know how to narrow it down at all. I hope this helped you out a little bit. Maybe if you're stuck on a riff and didn't know where to take it, maybe you could try moving it into a different chord or a different chord movement, and maybe that'll bring some different, a different kind of feel to your riff. But anyway, that's all I have time for today. I hope you enjoyed, hope you learned something new, and thanks for watching as always, and I will catch you in the next video. Oh, and then one more thing before I go. If you're in the Southern California area, I am actually setting up a little album release show for my band Remnants of Humanity. If you don't know, we actually released our new album Dark Matter recently. Available on Spotify, Bandcamp, Google Play, Apple Music, basically any kind of streaming site you could ever think of, ever. But on September 8th, we'll be playing in Fullerton, actually, at Program Skate and Sound. So if anyone's in the SoCal area and wants to come hang out with us, I'd love to meet you guys, hang out a little bit, and just share some of my new music with you, some of my band's new music. So if you're in the area, definitely check it out. I'd love to see you.